Welcome to the Art of Classiness podcast, a show where we redefine what it means to be a classy lady. And sometimes it's messy. I'm Robin.
And I'm Deborah, two friends turned classy ladies who are here to discuss life's ups and downs, navigating the complexities of adulthood, and how the gift of friendship is essential to belonging.
Today's episode is part of our series, The TV That Raised Us, and we're talking about a show that perfectly captures modern friendship chaos, Platonic.
It's part midlife crisis, part emotional support hotline, and somehow still hilarious.
We're breaking down what makes Will and Sylvia's friendship so relatable, why we've outgrown the Ross and Rachel trope, and how Platonic captures the millennial meltdown with surprising grace.
It's time to talk about the new rules of friendship, the ones that don't need a will they, won't they.
So follow along, give us your feedback, and don't forget to like and subscribe. What's up, classy ladies and gentlemen? Deborah, let's do a check-in.
All right, let's check on in. You know what, Robin? Do you know what I did last weekend? I don't think we've talked about this yet.
What'd you do?
Absolutely nothing.
That's great. Love that for you.
I planned it, had a rot day, a full rot day last Saturday. And it's just like the stars aligned perfectly. Like you were out of town, so we weren't recording. I didn't have my kids, and the week could not have been more stressful. So every day of that week, I was like, oh, I'm doing nothing. I am doing nothing on Saturday, and I'm going to revel in it, and I'm going to enjoy it. And I truly had to have the discipline to do nothing. Like, I ended up putting some clothes in the wash, just minor tidying up. But for the most part, no bra to be found, PJs all day, Deborah-sized hole on the couch, just absolute perfection. And I needed that full system reset so badly. I honestly, the next day, I was smiling about it. I slept in naturally until 8, which is crazy because even my dog doesn't let me do that because he wants to go outside. He just wakes up full of energy.
Right.
But because he had surgery, he was still all drugged up and sleepy.
Nice.
So we both just had a nice sleep-in day. I finally finished Love is Blind, which was a train wreck. I watched some football. I got takeout. I'm honestly jealous of that time last week. I think of her last Saturday and I'm like, you had it so good. I highly recommend planning a rot day. It was so worth it.
Well, what are you doing this Saturday?
Everything I didn't do last weekend. The pendulum always swings back, and it is hitting me real hard because, now, mind you, I made it so I wasn't so feast or famine, meaning Sunday I didn't feel crazy. But this week has just really been kind of chaotic with work. And I sort of knew, okay, you had a rot day last Saturday. This Saturday, you're gonna be a little bit more functional. So, I'll be doing all the things I put off this week. But so great. Highly recommend it.
Well, I know it was well-deserved, too.
Thank you.
That's awesome. I did not get to have a rot fest last weekend because I was traveling to Texas.
And tell us why.
My mom got married.
Yes.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Pam. So exciting.
Pam and Mike,
yes.
Yeah, it was really cute. And they both just look so happy. And I've never seen this version of my mom. It's pretty cool.
Oh, that's so great.
To see her with someone that treats her so well. So It was a wonderful celebration, and we had a really nice weekend.
Oh, that's so nice. And that was back in Texas, right?
Yeah, we were in League City, which is outside of Houston.
Mm.
And amazingly, with all the government shutdown, none of our flights were affected.
Awesome.
Which was wild. Thanks, Southwest, for not trapping us at the Denver airport or something.
And flying through Denver, which I believe is the largest airport in the country. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's definitely up there.
Yeah, it's a huge hub.
Mm-hmm.
And we also flew in and out of Hobby Airport in Houston, which is the smaller one, as opposed to Bush.
Okay, yeah.
And that's the one where you were seeing all over the news, 3-hour wait times for security. We breezed on through at Hobby. It was amazing.
I did see stories of people waiting in line at Houston for like 3 hours, and I didn't want to share it with you or
I
ask
saw
you
it.
how it was going, but I'm so glad that didn't happen to you because that would be a nightmare.
Yeah. So we're back home and preparing for the holidays, I guess.
We put up our Christmas tree this week.
Oh, I love that. Seth won't let me.
Honestly, this is the earliest I have ever put it up. My son really won me over because we had a cold front come through. We actually had some snow.
Oh.
Earlier this week. It's 60 now. So that just shows you like what's going on in the Midwest. But he just got me in the right moment where it was like snow on the ground. He was in a good mood. He wanted to watch all the Christmas movies. And now it's up. And now I feel like a fool because it's like kind of warm. I don't know if it's going to get cold again, in the near future, but it's up. I haven't put any other decorations up. I drew the line at the tree, but we're in the season.
I love that. Was it George?
No, it was Max.
Max?
It's his favorite. It's his absolute favorite.
Well, hey, on the bright side, you can take your Christmas pictures early.
That's true. You get ahead of it. Love that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Let's get into our classy convo today. I know we've touched on this several times. Can men and women be friends? And, it's nuanced, it's messy. There's yeses and nos, depending on the situation. But what I love about our conversation today is we are specifically talking about a friendship that actually is truly platonic. And that is about Will and Sylvia in the show Platonic.
Yes. Robin, you turned me on to this show, correct?
Yes, I did.
Yes, you did. And thank God you did, because I got to tell you, this ended up being one of my favorite shows of 2025. It was a real surprise to me. And I got to just tell the audience, Robin and I in no way are being paid to talk about this show today. But you know what, Seth Rogen, if you want to throw us a little merch here and there, we'll gladly take it, because I just really enjoyed this show for so many reasons. It's very funny. I love the dynamic between Seth Rogen and Rose Byrne. And if you have never seen this show, fear not, okay? Because we're not just going to talk about the storylines and the individual characters. The reason why we want to talk about Platonic today is every millennial should be watching this show. It hits on so many themes that ring so true. And we really found so many parallels between some of the conflicts and crises that the characters were experiencing with really the stage of life that if you're in your late 30s to early mid 40s, you're right there with them. So I'm really excited to dive into this today.
That's so true. It's such a great representation of what our generation is experiencing, the kind of burnout, the emotional codependency, constantly reinventing yourself. And you see all of that in Platonic. So that's why we wanted to use the show as a jumping off point for our topic today.
Let's just dive right in with one of the first themes that millennials can relate to when it comes to this show, which is we're all adults here and men and women can actually be friends.
Yes, we found some statistics even. And this one is from a 2023 YouGov survey, where 63% of people believe men and women can be just friends. Yet over half admit they've had others question that friendship's boundaries, which is something we also see in Platonic. Their friendship affects their relationships with other people.
That is the perfect survey. So before we get too into the details, high level, if you've never seen the show but you want to listen along, Will, who's played by Seth Rogen, and Sylvia, who's played by Rose Byrne. And if you're trying to place Rose Byrne, she is Maya Rudolph's new friend in the movie Bridesmaids. Okay. And she honestly is she's so funny.
I love her.
She's got the best comedic timing. So Will and Sylvia have been friends for years, but they had a falling out when Will got married. And they reconnected when Sylvia finds out that Will and his wife are getting or have gotten a divorce. And they reconnect in a time of kind of quiet crisis in both of their lives. Will is a lot more blatant because he's obviously going through a divorce and he is trying to figure out his place in a bar that he has part ownership in. And Sylvia's in that stage of parenthood where she is doing everything for everyone. On the outside, her life looks totally put together. But as the show goes on, you kind of find all the ways in which she is quietly falling apart. So they become each other's perfect emotional crutch. And just as the title suggests, it is 100% a platonic friendship. At no point in this series are you ever questioning if anything is going to happen between the two. And hats off to the casting because they have the perfect chemistry of being friends that just would annoy you in a group because you know that they're always going to have their own thing going on.
Yeah.
But you're never like, something has happened with them or going to happen. Like they toe that line so perfectly. But while it doesn't impact them, other people in their lives feel weird about it. And that's really the overarching theme of the show.
That's right. They're both experiencing their own version of an existential crisis. Like you see Will, you never find out how old they are, but based on their history, the age of Sylvia's kids, they're probably like in their 40s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Will is still trying, he's dressing the part, he's acting the part of like a 20-something. Like he's trying to stay young and relevant.
Mm-hmm.
And Sylvia left her job when they started having kids. She used to be a lawyer, and now she spends some time trying to get back into that. It ends up not feeling right for her. I'll leave it at that.
Yep. Yep.
And she's just trying to figure out who she is now that the kids are growing up and they don't need her as much as they used to. So, like, the contrast is vastly different, but that's something that they connect over. And the mutual chaos is what makes it so entertaining.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And the emotional crutch that they provide each other. You know, I think Sylvia brings Will a lot of stability and direction and just challenges where he's at in his life, you know, is kind of that mirror to call him out of like, maybe you shouldn't be dating a 24-year-old or, you know, maybe we should not do a little bit of Molly on, you know, this weekend together. And at the same time, you know, Will is able to bring out this fun side in Sylvia that has kind of been tucked away for a really long time because she's a stay-at-home mom and, you know, her husband's a lawyer, so he's kind of busy all the time. And it really, they find each other when they are spiraling and they become each other's constant. There was an episode, I think it was the season finale, where they were kind of recapping what they meant to each other at that time in their lives. And I got misty-eyed. I actually got emotional. And I don't think it's supposed to play that sad. It's not supposed to be sad, but it just made me realize, and I think another reason why millennials would love this show is we all know who that person is that you can go to when you're in that spiral.
Yeah.
And maybe they're not there for every phase of your life, right? There was a reason why Will and Sylvia took like a good 5 years off from each other. But it gives you so much nostalgia to think about those times.
Another thing I found interesting about their renewed friendship is that, yes, it is platonic, but it is causing rifts with their other relationships because their closeness, while not romantic, is still off-put. It's weird.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have boundaries is actually the best way to describe it.
Right, right.
There are no boundaries. They overstep constantly. Like, Will can't tell Sylvia about the girl he's dating because he knows she's going to have an opinion about it and she's not going to be quiet.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, yeah, I think for all those reasons, it really, I couldn't quite put my finger on why I liked this show so much. I mean, there were so many funny moments and I think it's really well written, but it wasn't until we put it under this framework of being a show kind of quietly about millennials that everything really clicked for me. Because we do have this embedded yearning for how things used to be, right? Like we're the generation that has gone through the digital transformation of this world. And we know both sides now. And we yearn for that simpler time, right? And I think this show really does a good job at exploring, well, what would happen if you could kind of tap back in a little bit to that time in your life where it was just you and your best friend kind of doing some crazy shit.
Yes, 100%. I had a group of friends, mostly guys, actually. I knew some of them from high school.
Mm-hmm.
We were all living in Austin. One of them, we worked together at an ice cream shop, and we got into all sorts of shenanigans, not unlike what Will and Sylvia do. The idea of going back to that time that was simpler and staying up till 4 and 5 in the morning doing fuck all.
Mm-hmm.
Stupid stuff, but it was so fun.
Yeah. And going back to like the co-ed nature of it all, because you're right. You and I have talked about this quite a bit. Men and women being friends, how that complicates things, how it maybe doesn't complicate things. And I think for this show, having that be sort of the central plot line of, a guy and a girl and the differences between them is also nostalgic because there is just something about a great guy friend. There really is. And I think guys would say the same thing. Like when you find a really cool girl, like there's just something about that dynamic. And if you can balance it, it just brings out other layers of chaos and fun and adventure that maybe you're not quite getting with just the girls, right? I mean, you and I love a good girls' night, right?
Of course.
But there is just something about that chaotic energy of like a platonic guy friend that feels so exciting for some reason.
What I think is so exciting about it is that when it is a truly platonic relationship, you're getting to see the male perspective in a really unique way.
Mm-hmm.
They're being their authentic selves because they trust you. You've built a level of trust. There is that emotional intimacy present. And I think that's part of what makes that dynamic so cool is like guys perceive the world completely differently from women. We have inherently different experiences, which makes that more interesting and fun when you're hanging out with the opposite sex without worrying about like, does he like me? Does he have feelings? Like, do I like him? Like all of that eliminated.
Right.
And you just get to have fun.
Right. Exactly. So if you're feeling in that space, right, where you kind of yearn for that time, or maybe you just have a guy friend that like you haven't talked to in a long time, or if you're a guy listener and there's a girl out there that like you just haven't hung out with a long time, like we're adults now, right? It doesn't have to be weird. You don't have to make it weird. You can reach out, bridge that gap, and, maybe not long term, but maybe go on a few chaotic adventures with your opposite sex bestie and see what happens. So yeah, if you want to watch a great comedy where there is no confusion as to whether or not the main characters of the show are going to hook up, Platonic is a show for you.
Let's discuss some other components from the show that we apply to our everyday life, and that is the codependency aspect of some of these somewhat unhealthy kinds of relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Codependency can be great in some cases, but all the time, not so much. So let's discuss.
Yes. I mean, Robin, you and I have talked about this so much about being codependent to different degrees. I do think, Robin, you are a lot better with establishing boundaries than I am, but I'm getting there. To me, when I see Sylvia in some of these scenes where fawning is clearly her stress response, I almost have to hide behind a pillow because I'm like, oh God, is that what I'm like? Is that what it looks like to be me sometimes? Because she's classic at even matching someone's tone, matching someone's energy level. And you can see it's just so inauthentic to who she is or how she's feeling.
Yeah.
And she can't stop herself from doing it over and over again.
I know. You can tell she's cringing inside while she's speaking.
Yes.
And it makes me cringe too.
Yeah, she does things that she does not want to do, like kayaking through the Los Angeles River, which is just riddled with filth and sewer water. But she goes anyway because she doesn't want to be left out. I mean, she just puts herself in so many situations. She can't be honest with her husband about the fact that she hasn't read his book that he's writing. Just so many times she puts herself in a situation where she cannot be honest with the other person because she does not know how to be honest with herself. And so that deeply resonated with me. Now, I think I've come a long way, but
yeah,
it was definitely a period of my life where I was just kind of a liar, lying about what was making me happy, lying about being happy and just trying to please other people way before myself. And I was clearly doing all of those things that Sylvia does in this show. So that to me just really stuck out to me.
I was absolutely the person that would say yes to anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was overjoyed to be invited, to be included. I have overcome some of that now. Like, it's easier for me to be like, that does not sound fun to me at all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's plan to get together another day.
Yeah. Or I'm going to sit out. I'm going to sit out of that one. But you guys have fun.
Yeah. I will say that is in part due to my codependency with Seth. I'm like, I got my husband. He's my best friend. We're just going to hang out. I don't need anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not, not really fixing the problem.
Just transferring it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know what to do with that, but that's my current situation at the age of 38.
Well, and I think that is prevalent in the show as well. You know, Will, while he doesn't have the same fawning ability as Sylvia does, he's obviously very dependent on their relationship. I think uses it as an anchor. A lot of the times she is the sounding board, or he absolutely needs her by his side in order to conquer something difficult. So I think they both have different ways of expressing that codependency. Something
I find hilarious about their codependency is that Will constantly acts like he can't tell Sylvia things because he thinks he knows what she's going to say. Whether or not he's right, it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, he does end up wanting to know what she has to say. Yeah.
And honestly, that is such an underrated, I don't know if that's the right word, but honestly, that's a part of codependency that people don't understand or don't talk about enough. It's not that you always need to be around someone or that you can't do anything without the other person. That's one part of being codependent, but it is really about adjusting your worldview, your tone, your expressions based on how you think somebody else will react.
Yep.
Right? I don't want to make them mad, so I'm not going to tell them that and just going to tell them it was fine because I don't want to hurt their feelings. And really all you're doing is lying. You're lying to yourself, you're lying to them. You might be sparing their feelings in the short term, but in the long run, as you see in the show, it always comes back to bite you in the ass.
And what ends up happening is that someone in the friendship is carrying more of the emotional load, and it's typically the woman, because as you said, our reaction is to fawn or avoid it altogether because you don't want to have conflict or cause disruption, right? And I found a study from the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships from 2021. These studies show women engage in 70 to 80% more emotional labor in friendships. I mean, I'm part of that percentage. No doubt.
Yeah, I mean, I think every woman hearing that is like, yeah, no shit. Right. And we just carry that burden. We carry the unseen aspects of life. Things move smoothly because we're thinking 10 steps ahead. And because we're doing that, guys are like, oh, it's simple, though. I could do that. It's real simple. And they don't realize all the things that they have not considered when it comes to planning or just approaching a situation.
And that's oftentimes in a romantic relationship, marriage, like the codependency from the male side is that you are carrying that emotional load, which is making everything in your life so much harder. And they don't see that. But they are completely reliant on you doing all the things that you do without fully understanding how difficult it truly is to manage.
Yeah. And another reason I think that millennials will love this show, especially if you are a woman, if you are the default parent, if you are even a stay-at-home mom, or whether you're working, you really see Sylvia get to a breaking point and really struggle with her own identity, what she's going to do, what her purpose is, even who her friends are. And seeing her in those situations can be deeply relatable, you know?
Yeah. Talking about emotional labor and how frequently it is the woman. In Platonic, Sylvia's friend Katie is one of the rare few who does not. She does it whatever she wants. She says whatever she wants. She doesn't put up with anyone's BS. She is the opposite to Sylvia's people-pleasing patterns.
Yeah. Also, another funny side note is she has her own like women empowerment podcast.
And she talks like this.
Yeah, it's like super 𝗵𝗶𝐽. And she comes up with a motto that's don't ask, don't get. And it catches on, and you can tell it drives Sylvia crazy that people actually like her podcast, because I think it is a mirror to Sylvia that she is not doing those things. She's not putting herself first. She's not asking for what she needs. And meanwhile, not only is her friend doing whatever she wants, but she has built a new platform where she's telling other people to do that. And Sylvia just can't hear that advice because she's so resentful of the situation that she's put herself in.
Well, and you get the sense that Katie isn't afraid to fail.
Mm-hmm.
And Sylvia is. She's terrified of failing, sucking at it, which is a very common trait, I think, specifically for millennials.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were part of the gig culture. We are going through our quarter life crisis at the age of 40.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to figure out, like, what is my life? I have to fix this. I don't like where I am.
Yeah, it's so true. And that perfectionism, I think, exists with a lot of people our age because we were told to hustle and grind and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And we realized we spent so much time climbing up a ladder, and we realized it was pressed up against the wrong wall. And now what the fuck do we do? Because we're all the way up here. You know, like, where do we go from here?
I'll tell you what you do. You start a podcast.
You start a podcast. That's what you do. That's what we did, baby.
We were both in that place in our lives. It's like everything had fallen apart. It's like, okay, well, I have to build something. What's it going to be?
Mm-hmm.
Let's give this a shot. Because at that point, I wasn't afraid to fail.
Right.
I didn't have space. I didn't have space for that kind of fear.
For me, it was like, how much further down can I possibly get, you know?
And that's what I kind of mean is like, there were so many other emotions involved that I was like, I just need to be doing something.
Yeah.
I might as well chase this dream that I've had for the last 5 years.
And here we are.
And here we are.
Love it.
Great segue.
Great segue. So yeah, if you can relate to those feelings of codependency or being the person that is always assuming the emotional labor of whatever relationship you are in, again, you're going to find those themes in Platonic. So you might see a little bit of yourself, and maybe it'll make you scream at the TV loud enough to take your own advice.
Yes.
Because you know what? Don't ask, don't get.
Don't ask, don't get. And all that to say, we still have no clue what we're doing.
No idea.
I think another common trait for millennials is that it doesn't matter how old we get, we still feel like we're 25.
What is up with that?
Right?
What is up with that? I swear to God, in my brain, my guttural instinct when someone is like, how old are you? I still want to be like 28. Even though if I hung out with a 28-year-old, I'd be like, oh no, I'm definitely not 28. I am not 28.
Right? I just feel so young. And maybe it's because we achieved things so much later in life than boomers and Gen X. Like, it became so much harder to buy a home. And working your way up at your job was no longer a thing. It became normal for people to go from job to job, whereas it used to be a bad thing.
Right.
Like, we face so many changes that we didn't have an opportunity to grow up in the way that the generations before us have.
Yeah. And then for some of us, when we finally got to that plateau, we finally had a house, we finally maybe got married, had kids, boom, pandemic.
Right?
And then we just revert right back to like, wait, what are we doing now? So yeah, it's just been one dumpster fire after the other. And I think so much of those themes are seen in this show between the different midlife crises that they're in, whether it is Will, you know, dealing with the aftermath of his divorce and trying to figure out what he wants to do, whether it's open his own bar or work for corporate America. And Sylvia bouncing around from, I don't want to be working at home anymore, to kind of botching an opportunity to be a lawyer again. to Sylvia getting into event planning and figuring out how to be all of those things while simultaneously having no idea what she's doing. And so many of those moments in that show, or even the desire to do something totally new. Like there's a moment where one of the characters in the show quits his job. And that's all I'll say.
I was just about to bring that up.
Out of nowhere, just quits his job. And I think that's something that we all kind of have fantasized about doing at one point in our lives. I mean, I remember when I was working a very stressful job and I was pregnant and I found out the pay policy for my maternity leave, and it was such bullshit.
Oh.
I won't name names, but it was a very shitty maternity leave policy that did not really incentivize women to re-enter the workforce after they had kids. And when I found all this information, I was so upset that I needed to walk out the building. And one of my coworkers followed me out into the parking lot to just let me vent. I was like, you know what? When I'm on maternity leave, I'm not going to come back. I'm going to bartend again. That was so much better than doing this. I could probably make more money if and then I could work nights, and then I could have the days with the baby. I won't even need day. I, in my head, was like, this makes so much more sense to just go back to bartending because I don't like corporate America anymore. And, shout out to my friend. She was like, you should do that. She was right there with me,
get out of there.
Just supporting me along the way. But I just think everybody our age has had that moment where you're like, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to finally start that bakery, or I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to finally become a writer. It's just this visceral urge that we have to just not be a part of these corporate systems anymore.
One of the stats we read was that 1 in 3 millennials have a quarter-life crisis at 40.
Mm-hmm.
I know I mentioned this earlier, but we actually found statistics that prove that. Let's talk more about this millennial reset button. I feel like I'm saying millennial so much in this episode. But yeah, the millennial reset button, why so many of us are still asking, is this it, in our 30s and 40s? And having those Sunday scaries of oh my God, it's another week of the same shit and I'm just not enjoying my life anymore. The thing with Platonic is that Will and Sylvia and even other characters on the show constantly make bad decisions that sometimes end up changing things for the better. And I think that's part of what hitting the reset button will do for the proverbial us, is that sometimes you just have to fuck it all up to see what lands in front of you. And so, yeah, fucking burn it all down. Why not?
Yeah, I definitely think most people our age have a reset fantasy. I think we've all just pictured, even currently, I'm like, maybe I'll just sell my house and move to Costa Rica and teach English as a second language and live on the beach. Wouldn't that be so bad? We could do that. And I think the reason that we have those fantasies because we have options that our predecessors did not. And when you see somebody else jump ship, you're like, wait, I want to jump ship too. That's why things like divorce can be contagious, because you don't even think about that being an option until it's right in your face. Or your friend that moves out of town. You're like, oh, I didn't think about moving away to another state. And yet I think, Robin, you're a great example of that, of having never moved out of Texas before. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, actually meeting Seth, who travels a lot and has moved around a lot. All of a sudden there's a door there where you didn't know there was a door before.
Right. He has opened so many doors for me. He allowed for me to push my own reset button when I was able to quit my job. And so I try to remember to have gratitude for someone providing that. And what a gift.
Yeah. And that's amazing. I love that. So yeah, one thing I love about this show and kind of how it relates to where we are is it's just a reminder that you do not outgrow the messiness of life. You just get better at laughing through it and hopefully surrounding yourself with the right friends that are going to ground you and bring you back from when you've done the reset and you are ready to come home with your tail between your legs, because sometimes that's exactly what happens.
With Platonic, when you break it all down, Will and Sylvia are both having this existential crisis, and they really lean on each other while they work through it.
And honestly, like, what more is there than that? Than to have that person who is not going to judge your messiness, the choices that you make, the way that you behave, the friend that can call you on your shit and maybe after some time can come right back and be right by your side as your wing person. So for all those reasons, again, can't recommend the show enough. There are 2 seasons that you can watch on Apple TV. Not sponsored, but would gladly interview Seth Rogen and Rose Byrne anytime they want to come on the show.
That would be a dream.
Oh, what a dream.
It is time for our class act of the week. This is where we spotlight someone out in the world who's showing us what real class looks like, whether it's kindness, courage, genuine humanity. We want to celebrate them. And this week, it's Deborah's turn. What you got, Debbie?
Well, I was thinking today that I am in the longest relationship I've ever had with a hairdresser.
I thought you were going to say with yourself.
No, I'm working on that one too, though. No, my hairdresser, 𝗵𝐵𝐸, who owns AD Hair in Columbus, Ohio, is awesome. And I got my hair chopped and dyed.
It's so cute. I love it.
Thank you. And I was going to say at the beginning of the show, this is the first few days where I have finally been able to get it to look good for me. And that this is not a dig at Abby at all. She does a great job. Most of the time, I'm just like, do whatever you want. But everyone knows that feeling of like your hairdresser nails your hair and your styling. And then you go home and you try to replicate it and you look like an idiot.
Yep.
So for like the first few days, I was really figuring out how to style it. And, I just this week have been like, there it is. There she is. That looks like me. You know what I mean? But I say all that to say, I have seen Abby since I've moved to Columbus. So about, I guess, like 7 years now. I have been going to her 7 to 8 years.
Wow.
And I've never had such a long relationship with a hairstylist. And every time I go, we like catch up and your hairstylist just knows everything about you. And I love that about her. But what I really love is she is so supportive. She is a girl's girl and she's also a guy's girl. And on many occasions, she has told me about sharing our podcast with her friends. She has sent me videos, and I've forwarded them to you, Robin, where she is listening to our podcast with her friends on girls' trips. On this last time that I had her, she made her boyfriend listen to one of our episodes. It was the one where we had Seth and Jason on. And he was like, this is so good. This sounds so great. I really like it. So she's like spreading the good word. And she's someone who like, she is who she says she is. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's so easy for people to just say that they're supportive and say, oh yeah, I listened to it. It's good. And like the conversation ends. And there are some people who like still have not acknowledged to us that we have a podcast, which is wild to me. But she is really someone who she is who she says she is, and she will do what she says she's going to do. And when I first told her about this, she was like, oh my God, I'll definitely have to check it out and send it to my friends. And I'm always like, okay, yeah, sure. And she really has done that. And she just has such a big heart. And I just was thinking about today, like, I've never had such a long lasting relationship with a hair professional before. And I'm just so grateful. And I just am feeling really good in my new hairdo. So had to shout out Abby, AD Hair, Columbus, Ohio. Go check her out. Tell her I sent ya. But she is my class act of the week.
I love it. I love the support.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't wait to find my new hairdresser because I sure do miss my old Austin gal. I had her for over 10 years.
I know. When you have a good one, you got to hang on.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, I should have just planned to get my hair cut when I flew back to Austin. The 3 times I've been back there this year.
I actually can't believe you didn't think about that. Maybe the next time.
I didn't. I'm a dummy. I'm a big dummy. Okay, it is time for our favorite segment, Class or Crass. This is where we give a made-up scenario and discuss whether or not it's classy or crassy. Are you ready, Deborah?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay, this one's called The Surprise Guest on the Trip.
Mm.
You're planning a friend's weekend getaway, and one person decides to invite her new coworker because she totally fit in with us. Is it classy because they're expanding the friend circle, or crass because they're hijacking the vibe of an established friend group dynamic?
See, this is tough because when we do our summit, our little classy get-together, we have floated the idea of everybody bringing a +1, and we didn't mean romantic partners. We wanted everybody to bring a new addition to the classy ladies circle because we wanted everyone to experience the love that we have. And even sometimes, like when we've gone to visit Lauren, she has invited her Michigan friends to come hang out with us, and that has been so lovely. It was so great to see the people that are in her life now and the through lines between all of us. Like, obviously, we had very similar personality traits. So it can create better connections with other people if you're in an open-minded group of friends.
This scenario is interesting to me because it's a new coworker. So I kind of feel like this friend is maybe committing too soon.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there needs to be a few hangouts before you invite them on a whole trip.
Can you imagine being the coworker getting asked to go to something like that? I would think I would feel so deeply uncomfortable. I would feel flattered and want to do it, but man, my social anxiety would be raging that entire time.
Yeah. Like, there's nothing wrong with expanding the friend circle. It's always an experiment. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But specifically a trip, that's more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
What was great about Lauren introducing her friends to us is that they hung out with us and then they had homes to go back to, right?
Right.
So if for whatever reason we clashed, it was okay. Whereas in this situation, like, you're stuck together. And I actually recently met a friend of a friend who told us a story about her trip to Japan with a friend and like another mutual friend that she was cool with. And this woman was so awful towards her on the trip that she ruined her whole trip. She had a terrible trip, couldn't wait to come home.
Oh, no.
10 days in Japan or something. Trips they not only make or break a friendship, but it can completely fracture your already existing relationships. It just seems like a bit too much, too fast.
And it is not considering that some people in your friend group might take a while to warm up, and they might be looking forward to a trip where they can just relax and be themselves. And then all of a sudden, Paula from accounting rounds the corner, and you got to be all like, oh my God, how are you? And like, you don't want to share all the details of the breakup that you're going through, or you feel weird using the bathroom, or you know what I mean? Like,
right.
The ways that you can be 100% your authentic self around your closest friends might be hampered upon if there's a brand new person that isn't really like on the same level as everyone else.
Exactly. That's a really good point. You know, those kinds of friend trips involve getting vulnerable, having serious conversations, talking about your life, what changes might be happening. You know, our trip to Montreal, two of us were talking about breaking up with our partners.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do that with Paula from accounting sitting there.
Right. Sorry, Paula, but we'll get lunch next week or something.
Yeah.
I think the gesture is nice.
Yeah.
But the full invite to a trip is way too heavy-handed. I think it puts way too much pressure on your friends. It puts way too much pressure on Paula from accounting and you, right? What if you think Paula's cool?
And then everyone hates her and it's your fault.
Yes, I would never want to be the reason that the vibe is ruined on a trip that people spend time and money and resources to go on. Like, absolutely not.
That would kill me.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I would be so mortified.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think the classy way to handle this situation is to say like, hey, I love that you've made a new friend and we would absolutely like to meet her and get to know her, but I don't think it should be on this trip.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the classy way to do it.
Declared.
Declared.
I love how we've just made that a thing.
Yeah.
But like literally no one knows.
No. Hey, one day it's going to catch on and people are going to demand merch that just says declared. Well, that is our show today. Platonic proves that growing up doesn't mean you stop being a mess. It just means you can laugh about it with someone who knows your chaos.
Whether you're Will or Sylvia, the chaos agent or the fixer, there's something really human about wanting connection without conditions.
So if you've got that one friend who sees you at your absolute weirdest, text them. Because honestly, that's the relationship that keeps you grounded when everything else feels unhinged.
Send us your stories at artofclassiness@gmail.com or DM us on Instagram or TikTok at Art of Classiness.
Thanks for listening, and remember, classy is a state of mind.
So mind your classiness. Bye.